All right, new tonight, a West Michigan elementary school principal is coming forward after claiming that her own superintendent sexually assaulted her. Marshall police have now opened an investigation into those allegations against Tekonsha Superintendent Jeff Kowalski, who was already the subject of an internal probe that was launched last month by his own school board. In an interview you'll see only on News Channel 3, Jennifer McGuff sat down with our Mike Krafcik to tell her story. He is live now in the newsroom. Mike.
Well, Andy, this alleged encounter happened back in April 2017. McGuff says she had been fearful to come forward until now.
It's really humiliating.
For the first time.
Because I feel like I'm speaking for people who feel like they can't.
Jennifer McGuff is speaking out about what she says happened one March night in 2017, when McGuff needed to talk to her boss, Superintendent Jeff Kowalski.
I said, why don't you come over?
McGuff then went over to Kowalski's apartment in Marshall.
And immediately I went in, and I knew what a bad idea it was because he was inappropriately touching me right off the bat.
She says shock set in as Kowalski made unwanted advances.
He was going to put a good word in. I better have sex with him. And he was cornering me on the couch, not letting me leave, putting his face in my crotch, touching my breasts.
McGuff, who was placed on leave for non-disciplinary work misconduct in March, filed a police report this weekend.
I have nothing to lose now because he's retaliated by putting me on leave.
McGuff's allegation led the school board to open an investigation into Kowalski last month. Tekonsha parent Jerry Maines
I started putting together this information.
Says he was the whistleblower.
I just want an environment where the kids can come to school and learn, and I don't think they're safe going there now.
Both Maines and McGuff claim they've witnessed Kowalski repeatedly acting inappropriately and sexually harassing his staff.
There's been a culture of sexual comments, inappropriate comments about staff, to me, about students, bullying.
We repeatedly called and emailed Kowalski, but he never responded to our request for a comment.
Jeff, how are you? Just a question for you.
So we tracked him down outside his apartment.
Mr. McGuff has brought some serious accusations.
Mike,
Listen to this bizarre answer.
you want to come plant some flowers? You can't talk about this.
Kowalski says he cannot comment on this ongoing investigation. We should mention he has not been criminally charged at this point. And in addition to filing a report with police, McGuff filed a complaint with the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Live in the newsroom, Mike Krafcik, News Channel 3.
We have learned an investment firm co-owned and managed by Kalamazoo native Robert Bo Parfet faces allegations in a civil case. Good evening, I'm Andy Dominiani.
And I'm Erica Moke. The Colorado Attorney General's office accuses the firm of selling more than $100 million in unregistered securities to hundreds of investors. Some of those investors impacted are here in West Michigan. Among the complaints, many of the funds were reinvested in a larger $390 million Ponzi scheme. Court documents don't indicate whether Parfet and the firm's co-owners were aware of that.
News Channel 3's Mike Krafcik broke the story. He joins us now to explain what this means for local investors, Mike, who might have lost money here.
Yeah, and Erica, the state AG's office in Colorado says the firm violated the state's law by selling unregistered securities to investors. That AG's office says many of those investments ended up being reinvested in 3 companies whose owners have been sentenced to federal prison for running a Ponzi scheme.
Kalamazoo native Bo Parfet is the son of billionaire Bill Parfet. They are heirs to the Upjohn family. Bo and his wife Meredith run Jumar Management, based in Colorado. It's a firm catering to high net worth investors. The Colorado Attorney General's office says Jumar took part in a 4-year scheme to raise more than $100 million by selling unregistered investments to more than 200 investors. Neither Bo nor Meredith Parfet are named as defendants in the case, but the AG's office says Jumar operated multiple funds to create an appearance of diversification. One fund offered returns as high as 63%. The complaint filed Friday says over a period of 4 years, Jumar charged performance fees totaling at least $21 million. Western Michigan University finance professor Onar Eric Oslin breaks down what it means.
They were not providing information that they're legally required to do so.
The AG's office says investors had no idea Jumar reinvested a majority of their monies into the companies associated with the larger nationwide scheme. Parfit's personal attorney says they are also victims of the Ponzi scheme. It's unclear whether the Jumar Securities allegations may lead to criminal charges. One of the local investors who says they lost money in the scheme says at least 50 more in the Kalamazoo area lost money too. Court documents show an Augusta man lost $45,000, while a Charlevoix area man lost $200,000.
These are not nobodies, these are people that people know. I would recommend everyone to be really careful in how they choose their investments and where they invest.
Yeah, the Colorado Attorney General's office is not commenting on the case. Neither is Parfit's attorney. He would not comment on the current allegations. To read the full complaint, go to our website at wwmt.com and click on our top story.
Learning the investment firm that is co-owned and managed by Kalamazoo native Robert Bo Parfit and under investigation right now by the state of Colorado was one group of investors defrauded in a $390 million nationwide Ponzi scheme. We first reported yesterday that Parfit's firm faces allegations in a separate civil case in Colorado. The firm accused of selling unregistered securities. Authorities say that the firm reinvested a majority of those funds into what turned out to be a massive Ponzi scheme.
News Channel 3's Mike Krafcik broke the story and told us at least 50 Kalamazoo area investors may have been impacted. He joins us now to explain why Parfit's attorney says his client didn't know what he was getting into. Mike.
Yeah, Erica, Parfit's attorney says they fell victims to this Ponzi scheme as well. Now, next month, the man will be sentenced for his role in that scheme. A federal judge already sentenced 2 others last month. Right now, it's unclear if investors will get their money back. Tonight, Bo Parfit's attorney says no one at Jumar knew or had any reason to suspect that funds were being invested in the Ponzi scheme. Federal prosecutors say much of the money raised in that Ponzi scheme went to fund lavish lifestyles. Prosecutors say Kevin Merrill was the front man in that $390 million scheme. They say Merrill and his co-conspirator, Jay Ledford, defrauded Parfit's firm and 229 other vulnerable investors over a 5-year period. Merrill pleaded guilty to the charges and was sentenced last month to 22 years in federal prison. Ledford pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 14 years. A third man connected to the scheme pleaded guilty and will be sentenced later this month. Merrill was ordered to pay $189 million in restitution to investors who lost money. In communications today with Parfit's attorney, he says Jumar was diligent in reviewing contracts. The attorney added the perpetrators of the fraud were running legitimate debt collection businesses and were buying real consumer debt. He says Jumar and its principals have been working with federal regulators for more than a year and says losses to investors are substantially less than the amount revealed in court documents. Mike Krafcik, News Channel 3.
Kalamazoo OBGYN is under investigation right now for allegedly violating state health codes by improperly reusing a medical device that's used for rectal testing. Our Mike Krafcik is joining us live in the newsroom now to explain. Mike.
Andy, the State Department of Health and Human Services says patients that underwent a rectal examination with Dr. Roger Byer should look into getting tested for HIV and hepatitis. Byer says in an interview he did nothing wrong and there's no reason for concern. The Department of Licensing and Regulation Affairs filed the complaint. It alleges Byer ordered his staff to reuse a rectal examination tool used to measure bowel movements. Byer owns 2 practices, Urological Solutions in Michigan and Women's Health Care Specialists on Stadium Drive in Kalamazoo. A nurse practitioner at one of his practices told state investigators a rectal pressure sensor was used 100 times before being replaced. Laura says that device made in New Hampshire is FDA approved for one-time use. Byer says the FDA told him otherwise.
I was very concerned that we might be doing something that would harm the patient, so I immediately had this stopped until we could investigate it. And then it was found out that we were doing it the proper way. And they allege all these things about infections, but we've never seen one infection in 12 years or so that we've been using this device.
Now, the Department of Health and Human Services says it has not received any reports of bloodborne diseases related to Beyer's practices. Beyer can challenge these allegations. He has 30 days to request a hearing with the state. Live in the newsroom, Mike Krafcik, News Channel 3.